Hey there, I signed an NDA, so I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but I'm the only person that I know of that worked on both Wicked and Gladiator Part 2, so I wanted to spill some tea. So if you're getting this video, then congrats, get off your chariot, girl, you are on the Gladiator 2 side of TikTok. So I was the cooling tent coordinator on Gladiator Part 2. I don't know if you saw in the press, but it was a brutally hot set. It shot in both Morocco and in Malta, just really, really hot, and so they hired me and a couple of others to come in and curate these cooling tents, which are essentially these like enclosed lounge type spaces that you can set at cooler temperatures. All of the stars got their own, the extras got a tent, and the animals got a few tents. But I was in charge of the celebrity tents, and so I got to meet all of them. So Pedro Pascal, just like the nicest guy, set his tent to 65 degrees, just like a little below room temperature to me. Really, really kind, just sort of amazed that this is his life now. Also super conscious of like how everyone's feeling, how everyone's doing, sort of the first one to be like, are you okay? How are you? He actually like, it was a hard set, brutal days, long days. And to make everyone sort of feel excited, he has like a sponsorship with Corona or something. I know he was in a Corona commercial, but he got a ton of like 24 packs of Coronas and arranged them like a throne in his cooling tent. And you could come in whenever you wanted and sit on like Pedro Pascal's Corona throne and just like drink a beer. I did it one time with him and I was like so nervous. I'm so worried I wasn't myself, but I'm also not that worried because he's like so nice and tender. And then there's Paul Mescal. Okay, so Paul Mescal, whatever you're thinking about him, exactly correct. He like knows exactly what he's doing. He's such a cool guy. Oh, LOL, pun, I guess that's a pun. But loves animals. So one of the funniest things that happened throughout the entire shoot, Paul sort of befriended one of the horses, or I should say like a horse took a liking to him. His horse, Basil, one of the like set horse, Basil, I think it was Basil. It was like an herb or something. I love that I was just confidently like Basil and I didn't really deal with the animals at all. But anyway, Basil, I believe the horse's name was, started following him back to his cooling tent from set, and the animal wrangler was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And Paul was like, oh my God, no, it's totally fine. And so Paul, the animal wrangler, and the horse went back to Paul Mescal's cooling tent. And so like me coming into the cooling tent to be like, hey, like you're about to be needed back on set. Imagine me walking in, I see like Paul Mescal, I see Paul Mescal's ping pong table that he set up in his cooling tent. And I saw a literal horse like stand, and like the horse is like a third of the cooling tent. And Paul is just like, I know this is kind of weird, but like this is what's happening. This is set today. So that was like maybe my favorite day of filming because it was just so movie magic random. And then of course there's Denzel Washington, who is just a goddamn professional. He's just like feels like being in the presence of an icon. Very serious, sort of all about the acting, knows his performance, is sort of not afraid to take risks, always running lines in his cooling tent, very stripped down, minimal cooling tent. One time heard my heard my woes of being just like a single guy that's always traveling for film stuff, and he was like, you need to be with somebody in film, let me set you up with my assistant. And so he set me up with this assistant and we went on a date when I got back to LA, and it did not go well. So I'm like, I don't think I'll have much of a relationship with Denzel, probably. Anyway, but class act, just like a really collected guy. And then there's Ridley Scott, who is like so dry and so like just the filmmaker of the millennium and like walks like it and just is sort of like very direct, very like, oh my God. Denzel kept his cooling tent at 48 degrees. So it was like freezing in there. Oh my God, I can't even believe it was like freezing in Denzel's cooling tent. Everybody would wear like hoodies if they were hanging out in there. And so it was very like surreal to be like in his like frigid tent and then step out into the like beating hot Malta sun. Anyway, it was so hard, but it was also like so insane. And I feel like people were more prone to being themselves because it was just like, that was the vibe, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's the tea that I have.